Did you have any bad takes, Dave?
Well, I kind of echo the second one here because this was going to be one of my takes is like a
Oh yeah.
$200 guitar through a great amp sounds better than a $3,000 guitar through a bad amp. So why are we talking about guitars at all? I'm reading
Well,
exactly what you wrote.
that
Um,
right, right. But that's
right?
lame. That's also lame. And I'll
Totally
add
lame.
this, and I'll add like on top of that, the other bad take that's kind of related to that is you shouldn't buy a nice guitar unless you're like a really good player,
Yes.
right? Like you don't have a need
Well,
for
that's a
nice
whole
gear
separate take.
unless you're a really good player.
Yeah.
Well, man,
No,
but it
buy
speaks
what
to
you want. Buy
it
what you
speaks to
enjoy.
right. It speaks to this idea like, like there's no real need for certain expensive gear, right?
We've
And
said it. If it inspires you to play,
right,
even just play, never mind play something specific. If it inspires you to play,
right,
do it. If you can afford
do
it,
it
buy it.
and inspires you to play, I would totally agree with that. And this particular thing about a 200 guitar through a great amp sounds better than three. Yeah, I mean, look, like that's why I would say you need all the good gear if you want if you want a certain sound. You don't need a $3,000 guitar. You don't need a $3,000 amp, right? But
But
I
I
would
mean,
say I will say
there's
a
a
$200 amp, a $200 guitar into $200 amp, um, you know, there, arguably, of course, great players can make that stuff sound great, but notice the great players aren't playing that stuff. They're playing much more higher end stuff, and that's for a
well,
reason, right?
unless you're Mike Rutherford from Genesis and you were caught playing a Bullet, which was heavily modified
Yeah,
on the
that's
last
lame.
Genesis tour. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
And
but
Michael
anyway,
Kraus, we got to acknowledge the chat. Michael Kraus here says, if you can't afford it, finance it. Yeah, I mean that's what Guitar Center and
that's right.
Sweetwater
It's
would want
exactly
you
right.
to do.
We support that. We've done that.
We totally support that. And my Guitar Center credit card balance is at 0 right now, and that doesn't feel right to me.
Now that's only because you're reading to the right of the decimal point. If you read to the left of the
Okay.
decimal point, yeah, we'd find out.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
what it is?
yeah, that's how you're supposed to read it. Uh,
That's so gee. Oh, I gotta go,
uh,
guys. Got some explaining to do.
I will
Yeah,
say though,
no.
there is a little bit of truth to this, and I hate to say because we're talking about dumb guitar takes, and generally speaking, it is dumb. But there are examples of playing a good $200 guitar, and I use air quotes here to say good $200 guitar. There are some that you could get to sound great through, say, a Killer Two Rock or
Right.
a Soldano or something like that. If you have a really good amp, you can get a really good sound out of it if you find the right cheaper guitar.
Right.
Um, but I don't think a $3,000 guitar. So if we're going to go the opposite side of that, sounding better than a $3,000 guitar through a bad amp, I mean that I don't think you
That's
can.
lame. Look, it all
That's
matters.
lame.
It
It all
like
matters.
in the end, it all matters, and it's not. There is this age old discussion about, oh, should I buy a more expensive amp or a more expensive guitar? And I would argue like whatever you feel is right for you is the way to go, right? Um, there are good inexpensive amps out there, right? But I would challenge you, um, you know, play it head to head with, a really high quality amp, and you're gonna feel the difference, right? You just are. It may not be your thing, but you're gonna feel the difference. There's a reason why these amps exist and people buy them, right? It's not it's because they actually sound good. Now you might argue, no, it's because
And
they're
they do.
status symbols and you don't need, no, I think that's true to some extent. Like I think a Dumble has taken on a life of its own, and that's a thing. The same with like a Burst. I mean, these things are just very rare and there's hype around them. Um, but there's a reason why they sell tons of um, essentially copies of these legendary gear because they sound great and they're great to play. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna just kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent here on this because this is very sacrilegious for me to say this, but having now played my Friedman JEL for a little bit and having
yeah,
owned the Marshall SV20, which is the vintage studio, which is like the Plexi, their 20 watt from a few years
Yeah.
ago. Having owned that, now granted, I couldn't play that at true volumes because my attenuator wasn't that great, and also I didn't want to blow my freaking head off. My comparison is a little bit weak here. However, I will say this: Freeman, it's just better.
It is. It's just an awesome amp.
It's just better.